it's mad because, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the first time in history that you've got a government suing a podcaster. It's crazy.
Well, she's kind of wealthy, but she might not be after this. Matthew, what do you think, Matthew Stan?
I think it shows the dark power of social media, that the President of France and his wife are taking a conspiracy theorist in America to court. I mean, I've been on this channel nearly 320 times, and I have never talked about a story quite as bonkers as this. And I mean, Marcus and I have a different sense of humour, because I don't think that laughing at women and claiming on national TV that they look like men is very funny. And I'm surprised, Chloe, that you think that Bridget Macron is probably a woman. I mean, have we really reached that point where commentators on national TV shows are questioning whether the wife of the President of France is a woman?
Well, it's only because Candice is kind of trying to, Candice is in the firing line.
And that's the darkness of social media, because it spills over into the mainstream media. And GBNews now, as we know, has had periods of time where it is beating Sky News and the BBC News Channel. And, of course, it's right that we should talk about stories that are in the news, but there is no way 5-10 years ago that we would have been confronted by this sort of nonsense.
Well, that's because the mainstream so-called established media no longer control the narrative. In fact, the people do. So therefore, and the online platforms are way more powerful than the BBC and ITV. Even though they have a piece in it, there are podcasters now and people who have their own YouTube channels who are bigger, that have a bigger audience than the BBC and Sky News, which, to be honest, isn't difficult on Sky. I'm being cheeky. No, but you know, the narrative has changed, and we are now making the narrative. Social media,
especially on YouTube, like YouTube has a much bigger reach than most mainstream media. Like one of my channels has more hits per week than The Guardian as well. Like it's a lot easier for the average person in their basement to go out there and get their opinions out on TV. The problem is the average person in the basement isn't under the regulations of Ofcom. So people say a lot more stuff, which can end up going out there and starting rumours. Yeah,
you see, that can be a problem, can't it, really? Because people don't, you know, they're not constrained, they can say what they like, whereas we have to be very careful. And actually, I don't mind a bit of constriction and restriction into how far you go with things. And I think this Bridget Macron situation is the exact example of that. Let's take a look at the front cover of The Guardian. And let's talk about the use the military to stop channel crossings, Trump tells Starmer. And a lot of them are leading with that. That's big news. But I think it's, Matthew, I think this is pretty obvious that that's what we should have been doing to begin with.
Well, look, this is a serious story, and this is a serious problem for the government, as it was a serious problem for the Conservative government. But within that context, I couldn't help raising a wry smile when Donald Trump was suggesting to Keir Starmer that he might bring in the military to deal with this issue, and Keir Starmer was there making notes. And I just thought that says so much about where we're at. As I say, this is a problem for the government because the country needs to be able to control its borders. And yet, as I understand it, there is a legal obligation at the moment under the law for the government to treat people who claim asylum as asylum seekers. There's no doubt we're in a mess, and it's a policy mess, but it's also a political mess. And I think whoever is in number 10, whether it was Rishi Sunak when he was leading us to believe he was going to stop the boats, Keir Starmer talking about smashing the gangs, or whoever might be Prime Minister in 4 years' time, or even conceivably before that, it's a very difficult issue to deal with.
I think it's a very difficult issue to deal with if you are part of the ECHR and or listening to the ECHR. And I think that we do. I think what's been very clear after seeing the whole shambles with the one-in, one-out policy this week, not being able to get one guy across to France 3 days in a row and then finally getting one across, is that if we don't leave the ECHR, it's always going to be impossible. It's not going to be super simple just to use the military to turn the boats around. And I think we should leave, but I think there's no way that the Labour Party politically will be able, especially given the Labour Party membership is so left-wing and will never stomach that. We're going to have to wait until at least 2029 before something actually happens.
Do you know, I think what's gone wrong here, it's not a three-word slogan, is it? One in, one out is 4 words. But stop the boats, smash the gangs, it's always 3 words, isn't it?
Yeah, it's punchy up. It's policy, yeah. But this is something that we should have been doing from the very beginning. I thought that was the point of the military, you know, rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves, not the ones in our own channel, apparently, and they just keep getting through. And it's a case of we should be turning around immediately. And as far as the ECHR goes, they like to pick and choose what they defend. When I was arrested over a joke, I went to the ECHR and they told me to go pound sand. But whenever it comes to like convicted child molesters, when we're trying to deport them, the ECHR's telling us no. We're not allowed to do that because they might be mean to them back home. Good, I hope they are. Like, we don't... Yeah.
So the problem with turning the boats round is that there are obligations under the laws of the sea and that people would probably die. And I don't want my military, as a proud Brit, to be turning boats round and risking people dying at sea.
No.
And also,
we can bring them on the boat and drop them back off.
Well, there's a small snag. Yes,
we already
but
have
there's a small snag with that, and that is that the French say that we can't do that. So we would be therefore.
They let them leave.
They're sending loads
I mean, I don't know where you're going with that logic ultimately, because are you suggesting in the real world, whether Nigel Farage one day becomes Prime Minister, I hope and suspect he won't, but it's a possibility, or Keir Starmer remains Prime Minister, we are not going to go to war with France over this issue. It is true that if France wanted to stop this issue, I think they'd have a jolly good chance of doing it. The way it would work is the French would simply accept these people back. But that is a hell of a lot more difficult as a consequence of us having left the European Union.
I just don't think it's our problem. Like, we're a sovereign nation, we decide our own rules, we decide who comes in. If France let them leave, then it's France's problem. We should just put them back into France.
But they're a sovereign nation as well, and they said we can't go into their waters to do it.
Yeah, but they're a sovereign nation that let them cross the channel.
So we're going to go to war with France. I mean, we're just not going to go to France. We're not going to go to war with France.
Matthew, they are allowing boats every single day to come into our waters illegally, and they're doing nothing to stop that. It's coming from their territory. I think it's fair enough to say we are going to take one ferry back with a load of migrants who have come on boats that you've allowed legally to come into our waters. I think we can say to the French, sorry, if you are going to allow boats to cross the centre line of the channel without our permission, we'll take them back. I mean, the French have been stealing people's trawlers and keeping them hostage whenever there's a fishing boat in the wrong place. Why can't we be tough with them?
Not for a second saying the French don't bear responsibility or some responsibility for this. What I'm telling you is I can promise you, and I'll come back on this channel in however many years' time, if I turn out to be wrong on this. If you have me, I can promise you we are not going to be dumping people back in France without their permission, whoever's in number 10.
Well, you say that, but I think you might be wrong there. Donald Trump what he did was he used tariffs and trade deals and things. What really annoys me is that when we had the US, the EU-UK Defence Pact, at that point, Keir Starmer could have used fishing, the fishing rights, as a bartering chip to control our borders and stop people coming from France to this country in the way they are. But he didn't do that. In fact, what he did was he extended the period of time with which they can fish in our waters by 12 years. So I don't know whether there's some... I don't know why he was blindsided by not using that as a deal. I even suggested it in one of my monologues. He's listened to most of the stuff I've said so far, like detaining people when they come here, which illegally via boat. And he did make that comment, but we don't know whether he means detaining everybody. He said all of them, but do you think he means everybody or just the one in, one out?
I would hope that he would mean everybody, but I don't know if it's going to happen, because we're still not patrolling our own shores properly. France is doing nothing to stop it, because I know as soon as they leave France's shore, France is like, great, not our problem anymore. But it's not just like migrants that are coming over. Like, everybody's saying you have to pay the average like human trafficker about $8,000 to come over. Your average Afghan goat farmer does not have $8,000, so they're bringing over firearms, they're bringing over heroin, they're bringing over all kinds of drugs, and that is how they are paying their passage. They then bring it to the locations and drop it off.
Do we have actual evidence of that? Are we aware of that?
I read it online.
You read it online, yeah, exactly. The thing is, we don't know. But there was one where they knew that somebody came across with a gun and things like that.
The French are trying to do some stuff, and it ramped up a little bit under this Labour government, but it's clearly nowhere near enough.
Well, I mean, the reality is that the reason why people pay so much money, I don't think it's typically $8,000. I think it's typically 1,500
Although
euros.
one paid $5,000. There was something.
Yes, but the reason why this costs so much money is because they need all that money to pay off all the people. They pay off the police to turn a blind eye. They pay off pay off Coast Guards, they pay off local politicians, national politicians, EU officials, right? So they're paying all these people to turn a blind eye, yet we think if we hand all this money to the French, that the French police are suddenly going to play ball. Look, the numbers don't lie. They are stopping a smaller percentage of boats. It's been going down the percentage they stop over the past few years, even though we've been giving them a load of money. I think if we're going to be good negotiators, we need to say to the French, unless you can show actual results in the numbers, we want our money back, or we're not giving you a penny more. But we're not doing that. We're terrible negotiators in this country.
Well, no, I'd say Keir Starmer's a terrible negotiator. I think I'm quite a good one. If you let me do it, I'll be fine. But unfortunately, he's got, who's it, Yvette Cooper? Or thankfully, it's out of the...
She's gone now.
She's gone now. Who's doing it now? Shabana Mahmood.
Yeah, see if she's any better.
I actually have
People think she's a little bit tougher, but I doubt those around her will allow her to, and the ECHR will allow her to do what's necessary.
I mean, I've got a little bit of faith in Shabana Mahmood because she came up with some good ideas, castration and things like that, which I think she's probably onto something. But coming up, we'll tell you why Donald Trump has stepped up his feud with Sadiq Khan. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Jeremy Clarkson is being praised for his role in inspiring the next generation of farmers. His documentary shows the ups and downs of British farm life, and now the Royal Agricultural University in Gloucestershire has credited it with a rise in applications. Good stuff, eh? We can now speak with the agriculture student at Gloucestershire's Hartpury University, Joseph Watkins. Joseph, thank you so much for joining me. What a scene you've got there. Do you think it's going to inspire another generation? You're a young man yourself. Has it inspired you at all?
For anyone watching, it's just amazing to see, isn't it? All the different steps they take, all the different revenues which they can create on farm. So I think it's really good for the public. And if it does something to help get people into the industry, I think that's an amazing thing. Agriculture has both a lack of skilled talent and just a lack of people in the industry anyway. So if someone wants to go and do a college course or university course to get into the agriculture industry because they watch Jeremy Clarkson, this old pot-bellied Top Gear man, then I think it's great. And I say that with all due respect. I love Top Gear.
Well, we were talking about the ups and downs of farm life. What are the... First of all, let's start with the ups. What are the ups?
They're pretty beautiful ladies, you know, surrounded by 600 lovely ladies. That's certainly something. Working outside, you know, you're working with your hands. It's definitely a rewarding experience to be able to go home after a long day and think, right, everything's taken care of. All of these cows are all happy. Some of the downs, it's difficult, isn't it? You've heard this, I'm sure you know. The family farm tax has been in the news lately. At the early mornings, late nights, being away from friends and family, strenuous jobs, and often at times dangerous. So there's ups and downs to it, but as you can see now, I think the positives outweigh the negatives for me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good evening and welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Nana Aquia. Right, let's talk about some more of the other stories that are making the headlines in tomorrow's papers. Donald Trump has claimed he personally barred London Mayor Sadiq Khan from attending events during his second state visit to Britain, intensifying their long-running feud. Donald Trump has said that Khan is among the worst mayors in the world. For his part, Khan has previously accused the president of spreading far-right policies and also authoritarian tactics. Well, let's get some views from my panel. Political commentator Chloe Dobbs, political commentator Matthew Stadlen, and comedian and podcaster Count Dankula. So Donald Trump, he's banned Sir Sadiq from attending events put on for his second state visit to Britain. Was he right to do that, Matthew Stadlen?
Well, it's not in Trump's gift to be banning people from events in our country, and I don't know whether what he said is remotely true or not. I don't even know whether the Mayor of London would typically go to this sort of event, but I think his dispute, his feud with Mayor Khan is unbecoming of the office of the President of the United States.
Well, what about Sadiq Khan, who had an inflatable Trump in the middle of London? Remember that one? I mean, that's a bit unbecoming of a Mayor of London, isn't it?
I think there are reasonable questions to be asked about how political figures who disagree very strongly with some of the policies and the rhetoric that have come out of the Trump White House, both the first time and maybe even more this time, how they deal with the White House. And I think the way that Keir Starmer, a man who we all know must have very strong and very negative views of some of Donald Trump's policies and rhetoric, the way he's handled the president, I think, has been extremely effective and is no doubt partly responsible for this £150 billion of investment that we're seeing, which is likely going to be very good for our country.
Count Dankula.
Not a fan of Sadiq Khan because he's focused on all the wrong things. Basically, he complains about anything to do with, diversity and all the usual stuff while everyone's having their phone snatched and there's knife crime and women don't feel comfortable walking the streets at night and stuff like that. But he's worried about everything else, like progressiveness and stuff, and that's one of the main criticisms that most people on the right wing have of Sadiq Khan. He does not care about actual issues that Londoners are facing. And also another thing to point out as well in regards to the balloon, people in retaliation for the Trump balloon tried to make a big Sadiq Khan balloon and Sadiq Khan refused it, and he was crying about it online and stuff like that, saying it was bullying and everything, even though he himself encouraged it when it was against Trump. So it's fine to do it against Trump, but as soon as it's against him, it becomes a problem.
Just quickly, I'm a Londoner born and bred. I've lived in London for 45 years. Homicide, I've had my phone nicked from behind by a guy in a balaclava when I didn't have a chance to defend myself. And as you can imagine, that was an experience I didn't enjoy. And clearly the police need to and have started to, I hope and think, get a grip on this. We all want crime down, but the fact is that homicides in our capital city are now, as I believe it to be the case, the lowest they've been in a decade. So to paint, not saying that you have done this just now, but there is rhetoric out there which is painting London as a crime-ridden dump, and it certainly is not that.
Right, I'm from Glasgow. London's worse.
And ironically, Rwanda is safer.
Maybe it is. I mean,
it is.
I've personally never been to Rwanda, but I mean, on the point of is London unsafe? It's definitely a lot safer than a lot of places, but a lot of people are seeing the trajectory that it is going, and it is hard to tell from crime stats exactly where we are at because so many people don't bother to report crime anymore because they think, oh, there's no point, the police will never turn up. But I think if you just talk to people that live in London, most people would say it's starting to feel less safe than it was before. I mean, we hear of people's phones being snatched all the time. Everyone knows several people who have had their phones snatched, and knife crime...
That is a menace, and that needs to be sorted out.
Knife crime is up. I mean, some stats say 40% since Sadiq Khan came in office, and then we had another report come out saying it gone up nearly 60% in just a few years. Yeah, exactly, because Sadiq Khan is so obsessed with DEI that he's worried about things like stop and search that would actually save lives because he's worried that it's racist.
Can I just say, Matthew Stadlen, you said it's not that dangerous, but you are a man. It's a very different place if you're a woman. I can tell you that now. So
it says not that dangerous. I said it's not a crime-ridden dump in the way that it is being portrayed as.
As a woman, to be fair to you, from what you've said, it is actually a little bit... I think it's very dicey for women in particular.
When the sun goes down here, women are terrified.
Yeah, you don't want to be hanging out.
And I'm misogynistic as hell, right?
I'm very sorry to hear it. I obviously want women to be safe in my home city. I've got a wife. I've got a little girl who'll grow up to be a woman. And that is obviously a priority. The truth is, as I understand it, but you're both women, so you can educate me and correct me if I'm wrong.
No problem.
But in many cities, not just in this country, but around the world, women, unfortunately, take care of themselves, particularly after dark, because men are a threat.
Exactly.
Not all men, but there is a threat of male violence.
In London, it has got particularly worse, and even I see that myself.
I mean, as I said before, for me it is the trajectory. One reason why I've always loved London as a place to live is because as a woman I used to always think it's a place where in most places I actually feel comfortable taking myself home at night. I don't have to be escorted everywhere. Yes, you may get a few idiots appearing in the night time, but I generally feel like it's a lot safer than a lot of other cities. But I'm worried that it's going on a trajectory now where I will no longer be able to get myself home late at night and not feel absolutely terrified. And I think you can go to other countries and other places where as a woman you just cannot go out after dark, and I really don't want London to become that place. And I feel like Sadiq Khan isn't focused on these kind of issues that matter to us, and he will allow that to happen.
I would always, as a Londoner for the last 45 years, as an adult, if I had people round to dinner or we were out and about, I would always, not just in the last 5 years, but over the last 25 years, offer to help a female friend get back to where they lived. So that's not new from my perspective.
OK. Well,
I don't always have a man to escort me everywhere. You know, I'm a single woman. I don't want to be in a position
No, my point is that that's always been the case. That's always been my experience of female friends, is that there has always been a risk, which should not be the case, but it has been the case in my experience.
To be fair, it's not even safe for you, even though you think you're going to be fine and everything. There are plenty of men who are being attacked.
There are so many machetes about. That's the thing is, look, if someone steals my phone, yes, it's very annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But what terrifies me is thinking, have they got a machete in their pocket? If I try and get my phone back, am I going to get snatched? Because you see people having duels in broad daylight with machetes, and they don't face any consequence for it.
Have you seen that?
You see so many videos on social media of it, and everyone's just there filming the police don't stop it, and you hear of people, the police catch them and they just say, oh, don't do it again.
Not to get involved with people who are wielding machetes, but then they are the police, so if they won't, who will? Let's move on to this story about Tony Blair. Now, Donald Trump is said to have endorsed Tony Blair's proposal for a UN-backed international authority to govern and rebuild Gaza once the Israeli military occupation ends. Tony Blair authorised by Trump and supporters, and it's supported by Jared Kushner, and has been tasked with rallying Arab leaders behind the plan, which pledges land rights for Gazans and eventual transition to Palestinian Authority-controlled. That doesn't make any sense at all. Right, so what I'm saying basically there is that Donald Trump is behind Tony Blair's plan to kind of create a post-war Gaza which will involve Gazans. Do you remember when Donald Trump said that we can turn it into what was it, that lovely strip, what do you call it, the Sunset Strip of the...
Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard of the Middle East. That's kind of his plan. But he said we were a bit uncertain as to whether the Gazans would be invited to it or not.
I don't know if the Gazans would be very, very happy with a Trump Tower getting erected in the Holy Land. Or, you never know, maybe it'll actually bring in some income. But in regards to I'm always very nervous about talking about Israel because of my relationship with them.
What's your relationship with them?
Well, remember the whole Nazi pug thing? They're not the biggest fans of me.
Really?
Yeah, no, they're not.
So you were called names?
I've been called many names.
I've been called many as well, actually.
Yeah, that's great. Anti-Semite being the #1 one.
But you're not an anti-Semite, no?
No, I'm kidding on.
No, that's not funny.
Sorry, just to say, I don't think joking about whether or not you're an anti-Semite is a funny thing. My grandparents escaped from the Nazis. 6 million Jews were murdered, many of them in the gas chambers in the 1930s and 40s. So joking about whether or not you're an anti-Semite, it's not my kind of humour.
That's great. It's not your kind of humour. It's mine, though, so I'll do it.
But he's not an anti-Semite, that's the bottom line. So that's what he's saying. Yeah, so, Chloe, your thoughts on this then? Because Donald Trump getting behind Tony Blair, this kind of puts Keir Starmer in a very odd position, because he's not supportive of Israel, but he is. But then he's sitting on the fence with all of this.
I mean, Starmer is known as flip-flop Starmer for a reason, and I think a lot of people feel as though Tony Blair's running the government, so if Tony Blair says that this is what he wants to do, maybe Starmer will get behind it. But look, I think, for me, what's really important is that whatever way this war comes to an end, if it does, and hopefully it does, Hamas cannot still be in charge. Absolutely not. Else it will all happen again, and it's simply just pressing a pause button. Now, if Israel goes in and is the intermediary body to govern Gaza, I mean, people are just going to scream Israeli occupation. And so if some sort of authority more independent that is not Hamas can come in and do that, not sure if it will work, how exactly it will, but it will mean that the Israelis don't face so much bad press as a consequence.
Which part of it are you asking me for my view on?
The
problem with recognising Palestine as a state, and I've been to Palestinian territory as well as to Israel, is that Hamas at the moment are still in control of Gaza, and they're a brutal terrorist organisation.
But Keir Starmer said that Hamas would have no involvement in it, and I think Donald Trump obviously feels the same way. So whilst they are saying that they will deal with it and create some sort of partnership where they rebuild it, they're also all in agreement that Hamas will have no part of the government there.
That's the hope.
That is the hope. All right. So let's move on, shall we? Brighton College were opening European schools to cater for the rich leaving the UK. This is about a leading private school is opening schools in Spain and Italy to cater for affluent families who are fleeing the UK and seeking a British education abroad. Now, I've taught in some of the international schools. I used to do like a motivation and sort of brain training lectures and things across Europe. And there are quite a lot of, there's a Spanish school that has lots of English people there. It's, aimed at diplomats, children and stuff like that. The rich people are leaving. And the schools are being built in other countries because of VAT on private schools. It's called capital flight. Basically, when things get far too bad here, or the taxes are extremely high, like rich people have the money, they can just up and relocate wherever they want. Whereas, where are the taxes the least? There, so I'll go there. And then what they usually do is invest their money in that place. They can create jobs or migrate companies there, things like that. So basically, in a funny way, whenever you lower taxes, it increases the economy because more businesses are going to want to base themselves in your country, and then because it's cheaper and there's a higher chance for profit, they go where the profit is. And the best way to do that is to lower taxes. If you increase the taxes way too high, you've seen it in every single socialist country. As soon as they increase the tax rate astronomically high, all the rich people leave and they take all the jobs and wealth with them. Isn't it a sad state of affairs, though, that people are sending their kids to other countries, frankly, because it's a lot cheaper?
Yeah, it is a huge shame, and I think that there are a lot of people who don't just get up and leave and go to wherever the tax is the lowest. There will be a lot of people who are previously patriotic Brits, but the tax has just become so high. Especially, I think there is often a misconception that everybody who's sending their kids to private school is a huge millionaire and is absolutely loaded, and they've still got loads of disposable income. No, there are a lot of parents who really do count the pennies to get the fees together to put their kids to school, and that VAT is forcing them out.
All right, well, listen, stay with us. Coming up, Putin's let me down, says Donald Trump, as splashed by the Daily Star. Stay tuned for that. But this is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition, with me, Nana Acquia.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is going to be quite warm and humid across parts of the southeast, a bigger talking point perhaps is a stalling band of rain that's going to continue to linger across some parts of northern England and parts of Wales, all due to this trailing front that's going to hang around for a little while yet. So outbreaks of rain overnight across, yes, northern England, parts of North Wales, pushing into some southern parts of Scotland as well. There will also be a bit more rain over northern parts of Scotland too, but elsewhere actually a lot of dry weather, some clear skies as well. Towns and cities, yes, generally holding up in the mid-teens Celsius, but some rural spots could just about dip into single figures. And then through tomorrow morning, a bit of a damp start across some parts of Scotland, the far north for example, but that rain and the more blustery winds will be clearing away through the morning. Then a few showers across western Scotland, but many places starting the day dry here. Similar across Northern Ireland, however, southern parts of the Borders area and also northern parts of England a bit wet with some outbreaks of rain, and similar across parts of northwest Wales. Elsewhere across the rest of England and Wales, it's a largely dry start and there will be some decent sunshine around as well. And then we end up with this sort of three-way split in our weather. Still this trailing, lingering front across parts of northern England, southern Scotland and the far tip of northwest Wales, and that rain could pep up at times as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere it's looking largely dry, often bright and sunny, and in the southeast pretty humid with temperatures peaking around 26 or 27 Celsius. That front continues to linger in a similar area as we go through into Saturday, although it will have pushed a little bit more across parts of central and southwestern England and across much of Wales. High rainfall totals building up. Some places could see up to 100 millimetres, so some impacts as a result of that. The more unsettled weather does clear away as we go through into Sunday and Monday, so things drier by then.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Nana Akweer. Now, the Royal Society is considering expelling Elon Musk after its president, Sir Adrian Smith, condemned the billionaire for using language of violence during the Unite the Kingdom rally last Saturday. Sir Adrian says that Musk's divisive rhetoric threatens values that are fundamental to scientific progress. Right, well, let's get the thoughts of my panel, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, political commentator Matthew Stadlen, and a comedian and podcaster Count Dankula. But before we do that, Matthew Stadlen wanted to make a comment about the private schools.
Just very quickly, when taxes are high on the wealthy, some of them do leave. Some of them would have been leaving anyway. Got to be really careful with the data on that. But it is true that so many millions of people are struggling to make ends meet in this country at the moment. And so, obviously, the temptation in government would be to raise taxes on those who have the broadest shoulders. What you have to be aware of is unintended consequences.
That's true. That's very true. Like people taking their kids out of the private schools, you not getting the revenue, and then them going abroad because it's a lot cheaper. Well done, Bridget. Well done, Rachel. Unfortunately, they didn't think of that. OK, well, let's talk about this one. The Royal Society, they're expelling Elon Musk. Language of violence, because he said, what was that, his exact quote? We'll find it, but it's about fight back.
They haven't expelled him yet, have they? They're debating it.
Fight back against immigration
yes,
or
fight
die.
back.
Yeah.
So Musk he said Musk also accused ministers of failing, and this is in quotes, to protect innocent people, including children who are getting gang raped, and called for a dissolution of Parliament. And then he said Downing Street condemned him for using dangerous and inflammatory language, but he also talked about fighting back against immigration or die. Fight back or die were his words. Is that inflammatory language?
What he actually
fight back or die.
What he actually said was violence.
Fight back or die could be fighting back in a political sense.
No, because the words that came before that are key. And he said violence is coming.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that fight back means that the fight back is violent.
I think there's when he says fight back or die, and he's just said violence is coming, to me, and everyone's entirely entitled in a free society to interpret his words as they wish, to my mind, that is as close to inciting violence as you can get. In fact, I think it was inciting violence.
It's if you think fighting back...
I can only speak from my mind.
If you think fighting back is physical...
It was in the context of violence. He didn't say linguistic violence. He said violence, Nana.
That's not the point.
Well, it is the point to me.
Well, my point is this, then, that when he's saying that violence is coming, so you need to fight back, the violence hasn't arrived yet. So he's saying it's coming, you need to fight back in whatever way that fight will be, but he's not being specific about what kind of fight that would be, whether it's physical or another way of negotiating or dealing with whatever is coming.
Yeah, it's even as well as I know that you say that anyone can interpret those words any way that they want in a free society, and that's true, but that just results in people interpreting it in ways that support their own politics. But in regards to this, fight back. You could fight back against anything. You could fight back against obesity. Does it mean run around beating up fat people? Like, no. It's just a turn of phrase, the fight back. And when he says violence is coming, especially when we have mass immigration and crime is going up, we were just talking for ages there about how women don't find it safe to walk the streets at night and everything. That is violence towards women, which I think we should fight back against. It doesn't mean, therefore, go out there and torpedo the boats. I think it's unfair.
We've just had an assassination. We've just had an assassination in America.
Chloe Dobbs, we're running out of time. Chloe Dobbs.
Real violence.
I think realistically what he probably meant is, because he was speaking to a rally of people protesting, fight back by making your voices heard. But I will admit, Elon is often very sloppy with his language, and I think he often doesn't know how things are going to land. He says himself that he's a bit on the spectrum, and I would, that is a trait of people that are on the spectrum, is that you say things without realising how it's going to land, and I think that this was sloppy on his behalf.
It was, because it could be intrinsically linked with violence. But listen, next we'll speak to former US presidential candidate to find out what Americans think about Donald Trump's state visit to the UK. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
A northerly breeze bringing a slightly cooler feel to some of the Greek islands for the next day or so. Meanwhile, in the Canaries, temperatures above average, over 30 degrees through Friday and Saturday. 1 or 2 showers over northern Spain, but most of the beaches dry, fine and sunny, and some lovely sunshine to be had across Italy. Sunny in Greece. As I said, there is a bit of a breeze blowing. Temperature will be rising in Santorini as we go through the weekend. At the same time, we'll see those temperatures dropping off a bit in Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, we'll stay with us. I'm joined now by former Democrat presidential candidate Jason Palmer. Jason, welcome to the programme. Jason, I'm wondering from you, what do the Americans and the Democrats make of Trump's visit to the UK and the special sort of relationship?
Well, the special relationship is very important to everyone in America, whether Democrat or Republican. We think of the UK as the place where our democracy was born. In fact, there are many decisions in American courts which harken back to English common law. But all that said, it's a very somber time here in America. You know, with the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, our government is approaching another shutdown in the next few weeks. If the Democrats and Republicans can't come together, flags are flying at half-mast. So it feels a little bit discordant here with all this pomp and circumstance happening over in Britain at the same time as our country is somber and, you know, going through a lot of turmoil here at home.
And what do you make of the whole Jimmy Kimmel incident where he made comments about Charlie Kirk and then was swiftly taken off air and fired?
Yeah, that was a huge thing. In fact, that's all over the news here in America today and last night as well. You know, from my perspective, you know, Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he was engaging in free speech on college campuses. I didn't agree with him on many things, but I definitely believe in his right and all the people who follow him, their right to free speech. And then here we have, just a few days later, Jimmy Kimmel being forced off the air by the FCC. It looks like, you know, it was the comments of the FCC head that actually resulted in the network pulling that program. I think America should be all about free speech. So do all well-meaning Democrats. And it definitely seems like free speech is under attack here on both sides, quite honestly.
Well, Donald Trump said that it was because he wasn't really very funny and he was tanking in the ratings. And that comment was probably the final straw for ABC.
Well, I mean, not too long ago, Stephen Colbert also lost his show. I think the reality is that many more people are getting their comedy from short clips on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And, you know, in the past, and I do remember Johnny Carson, I'm old enough that I remember when Johnny Carson was on the air, you know, late night was one of the most important things here in America, but it's a different time now. People are much more interested in getting small comedy bits. Not that many people are staying up to watch a whole show where maybe, you know, 6 little comedy bits on that show are great and worth watching on the small screen the next day, but you're not going to spend the whole hour with that show. And, you know, we're finally catching up to that.
And very briefly, because we're running out of time, your thoughts. Does Keir Starmer, do people in America know who Keir Starmer is?
Yes, we do, although probably not enough. I had to look it up before our interview, but 46% of Americans do consider themselves of British heritage, which is kind of interesting because I think of it as almost, you know, 80-90% should think of themselves that way and probably do have some British heritage in their background. But we do know who Keir Starmer is. We do know the UK, and we do, you know, especially appreciate this is a special relationship that America has with Britain. And I'm glad to see not just Trump there, but all the CEOs from many of our major companies also making the trip and trying to build tighter trade alliances.
All right, listen. Jason Palmer, thank you very much. He's a former Democrat presidential candidate. Really good to talk to you. My panel, very briefly, Chloe Dobbs and also Matthew Stadlen. What is it?
Just very quickly, the rankness of the hypocrisy is completely eye-popping. We had the Vice President come to Europe and lecture us on free speech, lecture Starmer in the White House on free speech, and now we have the President celebrating the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, it's
unbelievable.
Well, that's all I've got time for. Matthew Stadlen, thank you very much. Chloe Dobbs, thank you to you. And also Count Dankula, thank you to you. And thank you to you at home for watching in this thing. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to all of you. Back tomorrow at 11 p.m. Some other people with some other people. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is going to be quite warm and humid across parts of the southeast, a bigger talking point perhaps is a stalling band of rain that's going to continue to linger across some parts of northern England and parts of Wales, all due to this trailing front that's going to hang around for a little while yet. So outbreaks of rain overnight across, yes, northern England, parts of North Wales, pushing into some southern parts of Scotland as well. There will also be a bit more rain over northern parts of Scotland too, but elsewhere actually a lot of dry weather, some clear skies as well. Towns and cities, yes, generally holding up in the mid-teens Celsius, but some rural spots could just about dip into single figures. And then through tomorrow morning, a bit of a damp start across some parts of Scotland, the far north for example, but that rain and the more blustery winds will be clearing away through the morning. Then a few showers across western Scotland, but many places starting the day dry here. Similar across Northern Ireland, however, southern parts of the Borders area and also northern parts of England a bit wet with some outbreaks of rain, and similar across parts of northwest Wales. Elsewhere across the rest of England and Wales, it's a largely dry start and there will be some decent sunshine around as well. And then we end up with this sort of three-way split in our weather. Still this trailing, lingering front across parts of northern England, southern Scotland and the far tip of northwest Wales, and that rain could pep up at times as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere it's looking largely dry, often bright and sunny, and in the southeast pretty humid with temperatures peaking around 26 or 27 Celsius. That front continues to linger in a similar area as we go through into Saturday, although it will have pushed a little bit more across parts of central and southwestern England and across much of Wales. High rainfall totals building up. Some places could see up to 100 millimetres, so some impacts as a result of that. The more unsettled weather does clear away as we go through into Sunday and Monday, so things drier by then.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage with me, your host tonight, Martin Daubney. Coming up on the show tonight, President Donald Trump's historic state visit has drawn to a dramatic close. But tonight I'll be joined by former Gordon Brown Cabinet Minister Sean Woodward and the Sunday Telegraph editor Alistair Heath to debate whether this was a diplomatic success or staggering incompetence for the government. And after 2 grounded flights, in fact 3 grounded flights, a lost court case and revelations that the Home Office backed a charity that provided migrants with a guide to avoiding deportations, the first migrant has finally been sent back to France in the so-called one-in, one-out scheme. Meanwhile, an American cancer patient has alleged she was confronted by British police and was told to apologise over her social media posts. I wonder what Donald Trump would have made of that fiasco. And finally,
does the new Secretary of State for Justice recognise Sharia law and Sharia courts in the United Kingdom? Yes or no?
Yes, Reform UK MP Sarah Pochin has caused quite the storm once again in the House of Commons after her question about Sharia law and courts in the UK. She joins me on tonight's show for a dramatic finale. All that's to come, but first, here's your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you and good evening to you. Tonight at 7, US President Donald Trump has urged Sir Keir Starmer to take a tougher line on illegal immigration, even suggesting military involvement. Speaking alongside the Prime Minister earlier, Mr Trump said uncontrolled migration destroys countries from within. He did, though, praise his own record, claiming the US went from millions crossing illegally to 0 in the past 3 months.
It doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them. And we are removing them. We have no choice, and I feel very strongly about it.
Well, also at that press conference earlier, the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said Britain fiercely protects free speech, but that there is a line when it incites real harm. He said freedom of speech is a founding value that the UK will always protect, but stressed the limit is with those who peddle paedophilia and suicide to children online. GB News presenter Bev Turner pressed him on disagreements with Donald Trump and raised concerns over thousands of arrests reported each year under communications laws.
I draw a limit between free speech and the speech of those that want to peddle paedophilia and suicide social media to children, and therefore I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them, paedophiles, those that peddle suicide, which had a terrible consequence for individual, particularly teenagers. And so that's the balance we strike.
Well, their meeting at Chequers also saw a new UK-US tech prosperity deal with up to £150 billion investment promised by American firms. Mr Trump hailed it an unbreakable bond between Washington and London, as Sir Keir Starmer called it a great day for the so-called special relationship. Also tonight, UK interest rates have been held at 4%, with the Bank of England warning we're not out of the woods yet as inflation rises nearly twice its target. 2 members of the bank's 9-strong committee voted for a cut, but the governor, Andrew Bailey, said any future moves must be gradual and cautious. The bank expects inflation to fall back to 2%, though food costs remain stubbornly high. It's also slowing the pace of reducing its £875 billion stock of government debt, easing fears of market turmoil. All eyes now turn to Rachel Reeves' budget in November, with pressure mounting over Britain's growing debt bill. And the first migrant has been returned to France under the UK's new one-in, one-out deal aimed at deterring small boat crossings. An Indian national who arrived in August was put on a flight to Paris this morning. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood called it an important first step to securing our borders and warned that those entering illegally will be sought after and removed. More deportation flights are planned in the coming days, while the first arrivals from France through the new legal route are also expected soon. But the government tonight has been appealing a High Court ruling that blocked the removal of an Eritrean man who claimed to be a victim of modern slavery. That is the news on GB News for now. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at 8.
Thank you, Sam Francis, and welcome back to Farage Will Be Tonight. Your host, Martin Daubney. Now, President Donald Trump has officially left the United Kingdom after his historic second state visit. Here's a reminder of where it all began.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
Well, the flattery began early, and that was the moment that Keir Starmer defied the odds and played to Donald Trump's deeply held love of the United Kingdom and, of course, its monarchy. Well, this was the week of the state visits, and first we had this.
I love Turnberry. I love Aberdeen. I have a lot of things here that they warm my heart. I want to tell you, it's a very special place. Great place.
And next came what the British do best: the pomp and the pageantry. And that was the US anthem there for the hard of hearing. And next came these truly powerful words from the president at the state banquet last night.
But this is truly one of the highest honours of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country. For many decades, His Majesty the King has epitomized the fortitude, nobility, and the spirit of the British monarchy and the British people. He's dedicated himself to preserving the glory and unique character of this kingdom.
Let's be honest, nobody does it better. And next came this from His Majesty the King himself.
This relationship, which, with good reason, we and our predecessors have long called special, has made us safer and stronger through the generations.
And next to the business, because the announcement of a £150 billion investment today.
Ties between our countries are priceless, and it's really an inheritance. It's a beautiful inheritance. Today we're making those ties closer than ever before. We've done some things that financially are great for both countries, and we work together, and it keeps us together, and I think it's an unbreakable bond we have, regardless of what we're doing today. I think it's unbreakable.
Well, the big question is, was this a win for Sir Keir Starmer, or did he just escape unscathed? Well, I'm joined now by my magnificent panel. That's the former Cabinet Minister to Gordon Brown, Sean Woodward, and also the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. A pleasure to have your company. Sean Woodward, I'm going to start with you. There would have been a lot of squeaky bums, pardon my phraseology, in Labour HQ, particularly around that press conference today. Yet Sir Keir Starmer seemed to escape relatively unscathed. Was it a good couple of days for the PM?
Oh, I think it's had a really good couple of days. And I think if we think about the last 3 weeks, which has undoubtedly been extremely difficult for the Prime Minister and for the government generally, this was something that I think way exceeded anyone's expectations today. Now, of course, there's been a whole year of work building to today. Today didn't just happen. It's not just luck that it happened. What unfolded